Hello everybody. This is going to be video 782. It will be really short, really short. I mean that. I just kind of wanted to give a week update, just for recording sake. Is that posterity? I don't know. But I just wanted to document a little bit. So I've been back on estrogen for a week now, and I can definitely tell my body is like adjusting to it, which again could be psychosomatic, could just be me going, oh, thank goodness I'm back on estrogen. I don't know. But I have noticed that I'm definitely have more mood swings and more, I'm going to say, being reserved. Whereas before, maybe I would get angry in a situation. And I find myself now kind of being more removed from the situation, which again could just be more psychosomatic. I was looking at myself in the mirror the other night for the first time in like 2 years. And, over the last 2 years, I've gotten older, obviously. But I've also just gotten more obese, and I look like a fertility doll you see in certain people, certain it was like the Mesopotamian fertility goddess doll, and that's cool. That's cool. Or kind of feel like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but my body obviously has changed, and I think over the 2 year period, it recycled a lot of stuff. I can kind of feel stuff shifting the other way, and I'm much more aware of my breasts now, which again might just be psychosomatic, but I did start progesterone about 3 weeks ago, after not being on it for 2 years. And again, it could be psychosomatic, but I do feel kind of a tenderness in my breasts. And my hope is that, again, if we were on a blueprint and we changed blueprints and now we're back on the blueprint, whatever was recycled will now be recycled again and deposited elsewhere, if that makes any sense. That's my hope anyway going forward. And today when I awoke, for the first time in 2 years, I actually cared about what I looked like, and I put on this little scarf that I normally don't wear scarves, but I put this on, and put a little bit of makeup on and everything, which I had no desire to do before. I'm not saying there's a connection. I'm just saying I felt like doing it, whereas before I just didn't. And again, there probably is something else going on upstairs in my head. Not feeling good enough about myself, not feeling worthy about myself, not wanting to take care of myself, etc., etc., etc. And, you don't need estrogen for that. But I think I had just, reached a point where you just don't care, And I guess, so I wanted to make note of that, some kind of mental just positioning changes. In some ways, I feel somewhat like it's, in the old telephone operator, a person who sits in front of a row of plugs, and they're just making connections with plugs. I feel somewhat like that's what my brain is doing now. It's rewiring, sending things, replugging it in. And so I think I'm moving in the right direction, which is good. The other thing I think I want to talk about a little bit, and I'm not sure where this will end up, but I guess I need to give a little more background. my mom, when she divorced my dad, she didn't have any money, She had always depended upon my dad. And so when she struck out her own, she ended up working 3 jobs at one time. And I don't know where she got her energy from, if it was adrenaline or just the rush of being on her own for the first time. I don't know. I don't know. But my mom, 3 jobs, and much later in life, when I would go and kind of complain about having to work 2 jobs, my mom kind of would listen and nod her head, and she could only say, sometimes in life that's what you have to do, or, there was no sympathy or empathy that I could tell, and it would come across as if she didn't care. And I know now that wasn't the case. It's hard, you know. Some people in this life will experience trauma, on such if we could put it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst scenario, go to hell and back, and 1, 1, 2 through 5, initially it's, it kind of goes from being an inconvenience to a bad situation to dire, tragedy, trauma, something intense. I think when we're dealing with other people, they may have gone through something that's more traumatic than what we have, even though at the time what we feel can be pretty traumatic and intense. I'll give you an example. I have a friend who has been in and out of the hospital, in the 5 years that I've known her, twice, maybe 3 times. 3 times for cancer. Okay. And, she goes to chemotherapy, she comes out of it, blah, 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 blah. And so if I was to go with her, because I banged my thumb with a hammer, as intense as my pain might be at that moment, in comparison to what she's gone through, she's going to say, oh, that's terrible, But she's been to something that's, multiples worse. Okay. The thought of dying, the thought of, dealing with mortality and everything else. And again, I think with people, sometimes I know that I come across, I can be very probably callous. I can seem like I'm very uncaring. I think I am a pretty caring individual, though. I have a cat in my lap. That's why I'm not using my hands here. But, I think I can come across as being somewhat isolated and uncaring and maybe stoic, a bitch. And, that definitely is not my intent. But, I tried to kill myself 3 times. And, that's like, there's talking about killing yourself. There's thinking about killing yourself. I feel like killing myself, But when you pull the trigger 3 times, that's a level of despair and pain and suffering that is like, to 10 or 11 on that scale. And so when someone comes up with something that's maybe a 2 or 3 or 4, I'm like, well, that's terrible. I'm sorry that you're going through that pain. But much like my mom working the jobs and me working 2 jobs and, trying to get some sort of empathy, it's very hard because I know we're capable of more. and it probably sounds really bad, but, I can think back on probably some people that, you know, probably are like, what's wrong with Robin? She's such a bitch, or I don't know. And it's not meant that way. It's just, you know, I've been to 10 or 11, and, someone who's, like I said, a 4, 5, or 6, 2, 3, 4, it's like, I'm sorry that you're going through that, but, you know, things can be worse, and I've experienced it. So, I wish you the best of luck and cheer up, and I hope it passes soon. And that's in my mind, that's far more genuine than someone saying, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, that's terrible. I'll pray for you." Prayer sent. And then 5 minutes later, they're watching TV. They don't give a shit. They give a fuck about you. Facebook is so funny that way. Oh, the meme that I saw, boy cured of cancer by Facebook likes. It's so easy, and it gives us a little bit of feeling, but 5 minutes later, it doesn't mean anything. Sorry, I'm getting another cat's looking at me now. Yeah, am I being caustic again? Probably. But anyway, so there's that. And then the other thing that my family has, two things that we have. Genetically, we have very thin skin under our eyes. Okay. So it usually looks like I'm drugged out or I'm sleepy. But our facial expressions naturally kind of has this downward slope. So, I think when I'm in neutral, I look like I'm sad or I'm upset or I'm a grumpy Gus. What's a girl grumpy Gus? Grumpy... What's a girl's name that starts with G? Jenny? Maybe? Gertrude? A grumpy Gertrude. I may seem like a grumpy Gertrude, but I'm really not. But again, my natural... it looks like I'm sad. Or it might look like I'm not happy with a person or whatnot. In reality, it's just being neutral. So, again, I think it helps to know that, and that's not a excuse on how to deal with me, but it's something that I've learned with other people. Someone may do something and you'll be like, I can't believe I did that. But we don't know the whole story. We don't know what's going on at home. We don't know that they're having a bad day. And again, like I said, someone who has had it really bad, don't expect sympathy from someone, And, I think the older I got, and as far as being transgender, I exhibited some behaviors that are probably not very nice, only because compared to what I went through, they were trifles. And again, to that person at that time, it probably was a very traumatic and terrible thing, and I wouldn't wish something terrible on anyone. But I'm trying to think of a good example. Well, I lost my marriage when I transitioned. Lost my house. Pretty much everything but my car. I did manage to keep a hold of my daughter, which is probably the most important thing. But I met someone one time who said something about their lifestyle or something, and they didn't want to give it up. And that's why they couldn't transition. And I just listened, and I said, well, only you know what's best for you. And they were trying to get sympathy from me, and like, but you don't understand. I have to have this and I have to have that. And I'm like, well, again, we all have choices to make in life, and if your job is more important to you than transitioning or having, lots of money or whatever, then it may not be right for you, But they didn't want to hear that. They wanted to hear, "Oh, I'm so sorry. That's terrible. You poor baby. It's a tragedy." Because to them it was very important. But to me, I'm sitting there going, bitch, I lost my house. I lost my car. I did lose my job eventually. Um, you know, I think we just have to be aware of who our audience is and who the speaker is. And like I said, that's not carte blanche for someone who has been through hell and back to be a terrible person. But I think it helps to understand a little more about where they're coming from. And, I think part of why we tend to look for people who've been through adversity for advice is because they might help us out, give us, like I said, a word of wisdom or advice. In the episode Face of Evil, Doctor Who, Tom Baker, it was Layla's first episode. No, it wasn't. Take that back. It was Layla's last episode, Trial of a Time Lord. No! Not Key to Time. It'll come. Invasion of Time. Invasion of Time. One of my favorite Tom Baker episodes is Invasion of Time, because you get to see inside the TARDIS. You get to go to the pool that's in the TARDIS. But anyway, Layla says to Rodan, she says, my tribe has a saying, when you're wounded, look for the one with the scars. Look for the person who's suffered and survived for advice. And I think that's probably why, folks that have been through the process can offer some advice. If it's not, here's what you might want to do, but this is what I did and it didn't work out for me. I hope it works out for you. Best of luck. As long as we don't tell someone what to do, share our experiences, and that way they can make an informed decision. I think that's part of, why it's good to have older trans folk in a support group or in a group of friends, to have someone who's been through it. And I saw something on the TV. It was about trans youth, but then they talked about trans elders. And, the person said something like, yeah, we look to our elders, trans elders, for advice and whatnot. And I thought that was kind of neat. I think if someone asked me to join a club of trans elders, I'd be like, Groucho Marx, and say I wouldn't want to belong to a club who'd want me as a member, But anyway, so that's where I'm at. Just letting things kind of flow and happen. And I'm going to buy some more makeup brushes, because I have a cat here that's asleep on my lap. And he loves to eat my makeup brushes. And, yeah, I'm talking about you. I'm going to have to buy some, probably another set, which, shit, it's been almost 10 years since I bought makeup stuff. Just for that whim, like today, I was like, oh, I'll put a little bit of makeup on, And that's kind of part of the nice thing about, I guess, once you transition, and especially when you go full time, is you get to do whatever the hell you want to do. Yesterday when I was at work, they're doing some renovations on our building, and as I was leaving, there's a crew of guys coming in, and they looked at me and, excuse me, ma'am, miss, and da 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 da. You get to choose, how much of this you want to do. If you want to go to clown school every day and put makeup on, you can do that too. But yeah. So, all right, 20 minutes is long enough. So I wish you the best of luck in becoming yourself, your authentic self, as you define it. And until next time, I will sign off for my sleeping kitty and myself. And we'll see you next time. All right, bye-bye.